Hello, all. Thank you for joining me for this conversation. I want to share a little bit about the meditation I just dropped for the Taurus Super Full Moon and some of the energies at the moment. I'm super excited about the meditation because we're working with the energy of abundance and the garden of delight that is life on Earth. I've dropped a link to it below. Before we get started and dive deeper into the theme, I just wanted to share a little announcement. This November is my last month of events here in Melbourne, Australia. I'm taking a little break for the Aussie summer. I'm not sure when 2026 will start up again, so inviting you to join me if you're one of our regulars or in the area. This weekend is almost sold out, so grab your tickets soon. Also wanted to say a big thank you. Reflecting back on this year, it's been so cool to come together in community and to hear some of your stories and epiphanies from our exploration, to dive deep together and to come into a place of our nervous system feeling safe and relaxed enough to go beyond the limits of our mind, to explore consciousness, to remember what it feels like to enter into the space of possibility and to get excited about the potential again. All right, so let's talk about this full moon. First of all, it's a super full moon, so it's closer to the Earth in its orbit and more powerful in its influence over us. The moon rules over the physical body of the collective consciousness, and it also rules over our emotions. So some of our emotions can feel expanded at the moment, especially with that sun in Scorpio, but we'll get to that in a moment. Full moons are, of course, about completion, culmination, making space, decluttering life so that we can make space for more of what we want. But they're also about fullness. The full moon gives from overflow generously. It shares its light generously with the earth from this abundant state. And that's some of the theme we're going to work with in the guided meditation, giving from a place of fullness, opening to receive fully and getting into that space of flow. So Taurus is the garden of delight that is our earthly home. It represents our physical body and the five senses through which we experience and explore being here. It represents that energy of abundance and the remembering that the earth is our mother. We are connected to her, never separate. She offers us the mineral kingdom, the soil on which we walk, the soil that provides nourishment for the plants that we eat, that give us shade. It provides waters to purify and quench our thirst. It provides the breeze, the air we breathe, the atmosphere. One of my teachers, Dr. Ibrahim Karim, says we are not on top of the earth. We're inside her because her atmosphere is an extension of her, and we live within her atmosphere. So this Taurus new moon reminds us of the abundance of the earth, of her creative force, and how she's always growing, expanding, giving generously. It reminds us that we're here to be present in our physical body, to nourish and nurture our body and give it sustenance so that we continue walking this earth from a place of pleasure. It reminds us to slow down and smell the roses, to stop and witness the marvel, the beauty, in awe, to witness the artist's hand creating, and to remember that this too was for us, by us, that we are a co-creative force with nature. Taurus full moon also reminds us that we need to slow down and simplify so that we can make space for more of what we value. It has us look at what's actually important to us. It has us look at our self-worth and how we can create an experience in which we call in more of the things we value, in which we perform more of the things we value and create more value for life on Earth. Taurus represents artistry. It's ruled by Venus, and Venus is the patron goddess of the arts. She represents beauty, balance, harmony. She represents our relational nature and love. So this full moon is also about our way of exchanging. And one of the ways we exchange is money. And in the fullness of this full moon, we can begin to call in more of that financial abundance. We can begin to experience relating in new ways that support us to feel more abundant. The new moon also this full moon also reminds us that patience is a virtue. Taurus moves slowly. And when we look at the seasons, there is an ebb and flow. There is a time to create, which is the spring of our life. There is a time to enjoy the fruits of our labor, which is the summer of our life. There is a time to integrate and rest, which is the autumn and winter of our life. And even that rest, that stillness is abundant in itself because it creates space. It allows the soil to regenerate so that the next time we enter a state of growth and flow, we do it from a place that is fully supported, nourished, and ready for that next growth. Now, at this Taurus full moon, the sun is on the opposite side of the sky to the moon, and the Taurus energy represents the life we have on the surface of the earth, and that Scorpio energy represents the deepest part of the ocean. It represents the deepest truth stored in our cellular memory. It represents the mystery of life, the life that we create in our first, second, and third chakras, our sexual centers. It represents our ability to transform and transmute. Scorpio represents water. And the cells of our body are made of cytoplasm. It's a jelly-like substance. And when you look at the work of Veda Austin, she discovered that memory is imprinted into water as it becomes jelly before it turns to ice. So at a deep cellular level, we hold the memory of who we are. Scorpio represents our truth and our power. It reminds us that we are alchemists. Our cells die by the millions every day. Our cells are born by the billions every day. One estimate is that we create 330 billion cells a day. You have the memory of rebirth built into your cellular memory. You have the memory of transmutation built into your genes. You have the memory of how to create life built into your system. And this is the truth of who we are. We are a walking, mysterious miracle. And as we slow down to remember that, we start to remember just how powerful we are. Now, Scorpio is also intense because it takes us to truth. And the truth of who we are is that we are a soul embodied. The truth of who we are is that at the core we are consciousness, having a human experience. At the core we are whole, but we don't always function from that wholeness. Often we function from our shadows, and those shadows wrap around that wholeness and make it elusive, hides it from us. Now, Carl Jung said something along the lines of, unless we make the unconscious conscious, we walk in shadow. Shadow rules our life, and then we perceive life as fated. So to get to the truth of who we are, we need to walk through our shadows. We need to see the truth when we're operating from an unhealthy place. Now, I love the work of Richard Rudd. He's the founder of Gene Keys. And what he says about our shadows is that first we have to allow, then we have to accept, and then we have to embrace. because our shadows also are a part of us, and ultimately they're a part of our wholeness. Our shadows aren't necessarily good, bad, right, or wrong. He speaks about the shadow of greed being one of the motivators for modern society. We have iPhones, cathedrals, we have corporations because of that motivation of greed. Now, it's not motivated by greed alone, and of course there has to be accountability for our action. But when we switch the motivation from operating from a shadow into operating from the pleasure of creating, we begin to let go of the struggle. We begin to function from a healthier state. So that's kind of the intensity of what might be coming up at the moment. Seeing our shadows and seeing where we need to let go of where we function from places within us that are unhealthy, that are not supporting our growth, that makes us operate from stress, not enoughness, fear, anxiety. But in that sense, also embracing and loving all of it, because we can't get to the totality of who we are by not being truthful and not being honest about what's there. And when we are, we can begin to heal, transform, transmute, and then come into that place of power. There's a mythological story about Inanna, and she represents that Scorpio energy. She goes down into the pits of hell to rescue her sister. And at every level, every gate of hell, she had to take off her robes, take off so much that she arrived naked. And in that arriving at the pits of hell to meet Pluto, the Hades, the lord of the underworld, she gained her power because the robe she was releasing was her fear, her not enoughness, her sense of lack of self-worth. And in releasing all those limits, she came to discover her wholeness, her power, and her inherent worth. So it's a powerful time to step into our greatness. And before we go on, I wanted to share a few red flags and a few really cool green flags at the moment. First of all, we are entering into Mercury retrograde season, which turns stations retrograde on the 7th of November. So there could be some miscommunications. I've had to record these meditations a few times because one time the mic wasn't recording, and a few other things technological wise came up. So just being extra mindful of those glitches. Mercury represents short distance travel. So any plans we have, just double checking all the information before we get on the road. Also avoiding making any big purchases or taking on any new projects at the moment. Mercury retrograde is a great time to complete old projects, to sit and reflect and come up with new ideas. But the implementation phase will be in mid-December as we move out of shadow. Another red flag at this full moon is an opposition between Uranus, the planet of surprises, shock, breakthrough, freedom, rebellion, revolution. It is opposing Mercury and Mars from Gemini, and Gemini represents communication, our mental processes, and of course, Mercury also represents communication, and Mars is our life force, our energy, our action. But in its shadow phase, it can be impatient, it can be angry, it can be a bit ragey, and it is over there in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius represents our belief systems. So just being mindful of people coming into our environment or ourselves entering into crusader mode, and remembering that phrase that all roads lead to Mecca, and no belief is more superior than another. And as Ron does say, we are all just walking each other home. So taking a breath, taking a pause, slowing down, understanding that communication is a bit wonky at the moment, looking where you might be a little bit sensitive and misreading, and wanting to go into retaliation. I know I've felt that a little bit in myself in the lead up to this full moon. Green flags. We have this beautiful, beautiful trine, which is part of a grand trine that has been active since the last new moon in Libra. It's going to exact again when the sun meets it in Scorpio at 20 degrees, I think, or on the 20th at 25 degrees. And then it's going to become a grand trine one more time. So the grand trine is in water signs, and water represents our cellular memory, our emotions, our intuition, that flow state, that nurturing energy. Jupiter, the giver of gifts and luck, the planet of expansion and optimism and positivity, is over in Cancer, the sign of the nurturing mother, and it is trining Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, the sign of unconditional love, of bringing the dream into reality. Saturn helps us do just that because it is the taskmaster of the zodiac. It knows how to manifest the dream into physical form. It helps us commit and be willing to do some of the harder work involved in bringing it to fruition. And Neptune helps us to dissolve any limiting beliefs, anything in the way of bringing that dream into form. So we've got that trine on our side. We have that benevolent energy and the gifts it brings to support us as we look at what we want to manifest next, what we want to let go of next, so that we can live from that place of abundance and beauty. All right, a little bit about the meditation. In the meditation, we work with the energy of the earth. We work with the natural environment, the soundscape of Mother Nature, to open up those channels of receiving, to open up that energy of abundance. We work with the frequencies of the earth, the sun, the moon, Venus, Jupiter, to activate those frequencies of beauty, love, money, exchange, abundance, overflow, optimism, so that we can, one, regulate the nervous system and come into a space of safety. Two, remember that we are children of the earth, never separate from her. And that's one of our biggest wounds, this feeling of isolation, like we're alone. When we let go of that, when we remember that we're always provided for, when we look at nature and her abundant state and the beauty and artistry here, when we listen to the birds and their vitality, and when we listen to the insects and the abundance of sound, when we look at, the beauty and awe here, we remember that we are provided for. The earth itself provides the solid ground on which we walk, so that we can experience being humans embodied, experience the miracle of life on earth, and allow ourselves to take pleasure in being. I hope you enjoy the meditation. Let me know how it goes. Sending you all the love. Satnam.